Hello and welcome. I want to talk in this video about male suicide and depression, and the toxic model of masculinity that's been forced on men, crushing the male spirit in the process. Suicide is not about ending your life, but ending your pain. And any counsellor will tell a man at risk that his pain is temporary, that it gets better. The problem with suicide intervention and prevention strategies, it isn't in what's been currently addressed. It's very important that there's solid focus being placed on causal links from other factors, mental and physical health factors, social and family connections, different demographics, therapeutic approaches, and so on. But the issue isn't in what's been currently addressed. It's in what's not, what's missing. Robin Williams' recent death has shifted the focus on male suicide front and centre. A man who touched the hearts of millions, who seemingly had everything, swinging on the end of a rope. And everyone now asking why. Their quest for answers, of course, it's only scratching the surface. And suicide is one of the leading causes of death for males. And of real concern is stats showing a sharp upward trend in middle-aged males' suicides for the last decade. These men are the invisible demographic. When more people are dying of suicide than death by automobile accidents, it's time to acknowledge there's a problem. And you can't acknowledge what you can't see. And to most people, all the truth is an inconvenient fact. And that's how male health is perceived today. And any strategies implemented or any focus on the causes of male suicide, they've been threadbare at best. Warren Farrell, he said, "We can't hear what men don't say." And men don't reach out for help, for fear of being shamed, for fear of being ostracized. So male suicide is a case of out of sight, out of mind. But men, they don't just commit suicide, they obliterate themselves. And this can go on for decades, the slow burn. The word suicide itself, it conjures up images of someone gently slipping off into the afterlife in a warm bathtub. And the truth is, men choose the most violent means of death they can, and taking their head off with a shotgun, or jumping in front of a train. Now, of course, the only statement that people make is that men are more successful at suicide, but women attempt it more. It's turned into a joke, a deflection. Instead of asking the question why men are more committed to killing themselves through violent means. Now, how much self-hate does a man need to have to annihilate himself? Now, this is where the conversation needs to start. You find out why. You then humanize males. But that's too inconvenient a truth for many to face. And we have no answers to these questions because no one asks the questions in the first place. I mean, if we realize that this propensity begins from infancy, we could then track it. Because a male, he doesn't wake up one day feeling he's worthless and decides then to jump off a bridge. It takes a lifetime of hurtful messages and unrealistic pressures and expectations. And there's some data stating that the majority of males who do commit suicide, that they visit their general practitioner in the months leading up to the act. Male patients typically citing having physical issues, physical ailments, as opposed to mental. Because men do reach out, but in their own way. And we're not asking the right questions. And we're not giving them the space or the support to reach out. All we give them is shaming. And people are so hesitant to ask, or feel no action can be taken until we have all the answers. But we don't need all the answers. We just need to understand things from the male perspective. A male walks into a doctor's office. He talks of physical ailments, he might mention a breakup, or he's stressed at work, what have you. And the conversation comes around to him feeling a bit down. Are you sleeping right? How's your diet looking? Are you getting enough carbohydrates? No, that's not it. Are you drinking? Are you taking drugs? And right on cue comes out the questionnaire, and it's the same questionnaire used to screen men and women for depression. And if you can picture male emotion as an inmate smashing his head against a brick wall in an attempt to escape the confines of a prison, you then have an idea of the difficulty most men face in expressing their emotion, or in admitting to experiencing depression. And you would imagine due to this that a different tack would be taken by health providers. But the justification trotted out is that there's no data to support that a different approach to treating men would be any more effective than the current model, so nothing changes. It's an excuse, not a reason. Now, drugs, alcohol, addictive behaviours, withdrawing, the list goes on. All are risk indicators for males. But there is never the question asked, why are men engaging in these escapist and addictive behaviours? We only care enough to point the finger at men, but not enough to actually ask the question why. Now you ask a doctor or a psychologist what causes male suicide, and you watch him scramble for an answer. Male deaths, just like they are in the workplace, they're seen as collateral damage. The sperm carrier is less important to the survival of the tribe than the egg carrier. The expectation that a man will readily open up about his pain and be able to articulate fluently, without hesitation, his emotional and psychological pain and what's driving them is not feasible, given the fact that men don't communicate like women. And this man has borne the brunt of a lifetime of messages shaming and attacking males, which he's now internalized. All the while he's lost in a web of lies forced on him from every avenue of society that stop him from identifying his own self-worth and from formulating an identity independent of the male workhorse. So the message, loud and clear, is if men want help, they need to be more like women. And men and boys, they're imploding. Yet no healthcare provider will ever be the bearer of these truths. Not in this climate of political correctness. And all political correctness is selective censorship. You can't treat an illness without first recognizing the causes. It's like expecting an alcoholic to cure his condition without first understanding why he drinks. And likewise, the adage that's always ignored is that compassion comes from understanding. And to understand, we need to first ask why, with a desire to actually find the root causes, rather than to deflect to preserve our beliefs. Beliefs founded on the selfish agendas of others. Alcohol, drugs, guns, video games, they're all blamed for male suicide, leading then to the same propaganda on testosterone and male aggression and arrested development. Yes, there is a crisis, and it's a crisis concerning a lack of male identity and a lack of emotional and creative expression. And this is the chasm that males carry around with them, and nothing can fill it until the male finds his way out of the maze of societal lies. And with women, when you discuss the subject of depression, they fill the room with questions. They want to understand how it will affect them, how it will affect their lives, their families, so on. Men want to know in the here and now how to beat it. Even the idea of discussing their feelings or their emotions, it's too daunting. They associate it with weakness. They want to know step by step how to tackle the issue. Do I need to work out more? Do I need to sleep better? Do I need to change up my diet? Active engagement is the best way forward for men. And to engage with a man who's facing these issues, you have to gain their trust. You have to find a common ground. And it can be anything. Yeah, as long as it's active and goal orientated. Yeah, hitting the gym, playing a sport, working on a project. Because you have to understand that men they need to feel safe before they can open up. They need to feel connected and empowered physically before they express themselves. And it's important, when working especially with younger males, that the male who steps up as a role model be someone that they can identify with. Because men today, they're derided. No kid is going to respect a middle-aged married man. It just won't happen. That man to them signifies weakness, servitude, a distinct lack of character and strength. Because boys, they have very sharp survival instincts. And they size up and assess other males constantly. Would that man have my back in combat? Is he a threat? There's no respect today for fathers. Now, it's due in large part to the media and also men capitulating to these stereotypes. They're walking jokes. A man steps into the role as mentor. As mentor for young men. He needs to be able to prove himself by weathering their shit tests and proving his mettle. He needs to come correct. Boys respond to and they admire strength. And we do everything we can to break boys down. We suppress their natural drives and their instincts. We put them on medication and so on. And we refuse to realize the potential in the ranks of young men. And can you imagine all that energy, all that drive and creativity directed in one place? That's a very powerful and scary thing to contemplate. So we demonize it. And this breaking down of the male spirit, it only gets more solidified in men as they age. And the barriers, they get harder to traverse. If men are actively engaged and are supported, they will open up. And it doesn't come out in one go. Because males, they don't communicate like women. Males open up in increments. And they relate emotion to their physical self and their experiences. Many people, they're intimidated or scared to broach the subject with young men. But that's the stage where males respond the best. And all it takes is someone showing they care and that they're willing to engage and stick around. And you can unravel a lifetime of hurt. Now, older males, they're more difficult. They close off, they're shut down, and they suffer in silence, as they know they'll be perceived as weak. And this is the key to social control over men. You make a man internalize the message that he's weak, that he's nothing, and you make him believe that message, then he's very easily malleable. Now, the war against males is primarily an internal war, and a man's primary enemy will always be himself. Now, male self-esteem and identity, they're based on social constructs and stereotypes. And it's drilled into men. It's forced on them. The majority of men have no concept of their own identity outside of the expectations that society lays on them. And when a boy or a man fails, or if he's rejected, it's literally crushing this identity construct. Man, how many blows can a man take like that? And men suffer through a lifetime of this. And men are by far the more sensitive sex. They always have been. Now, the greatest romantics and poets have been men. And, unfortunately, men are also the biggest idealists. No. My experience will be different. Oh, my girl and I, we're fine. No, it won't happen to me. What we have is different. It's special. It's men spending a lifetime of seeing the world through rose-tinted glasses, while everything is rotting and crumbling around them, soon to be walking statistics. And women attempt suicide more than men because they can. The tribe will respond with empathy and support. And this won't be viewed as weakness on a woman's part. People will want to understand why she did it. They'll console her. They'll tell her it'll all be okay. Men who attempt suicide, they'll be stigmatized. And they will be given a very wide berth, which only worsens the original situation and increases his isolation. And the shame of failing at suicide would be a fate worse than death in the minds of most men. Yet men under these pressures, they retreat. They wrestle with shame, with guilt. They're confused. And every message, every instinct is telling them that they're to blame, that no one cares, and that the world would be a better place without them. And in a world of indifference to male suffering, where most men are ignored, except when they're being blamed or shamed or exploited for their resources, this reasoning is very understandable. We attribute blame to a male suicide victim far more readily and far more harshly than to a female. It's just easier to see that male as weak or as a coward than actually acknowledge his vulnerability. And even in death you are a utility and you are blamed. And no further introspection is taken or needed, as the villain is lying 6 feet under. You hear at funerals of men who killed themselves. Oh, no, he wasn't well. No, he was troubled. No, nobody knew. Oh, he drank a lot, but I never would have guessed. It just shows you don't really know someone. And no further reasoning is delved into. How can a man ask for help if he can't articulate what he's needing? I can't speak Japanese. I'm learning the language and I appreciate the culture, but I can't engage fully or understand comprehensively as of yet. And that's the experience for many men when it comes to articulating their emotions. And that was my experience when I was younger. And it's taken years of interacting with other men and women and in many environments to finally become conversant in my emotions and to be able to express and identify them. And there's much power in language. I wanted to speak the language so I couldn't be manipulated. I wanted to protect myself and navigate society as I knew I was being manipulated. Words are used against men by women, and also in other avenues of society, as they know that men lack the vocabulary of emotion. So men shut down. And you see this with male friends or family members when they're confronted by women. The men close off, which is a natural urge, in itself a protective urge. But what also sets in, and what the female revels in, is that the male feels inadequate. He feels inadequate that he can't communicate on those terms. And her reasoning is not based on facts, and she's not invested in seeking solutions. Now you turn on any current affairs program or talk show, you will see this language being used against men to portray them as victimizers. And these men look like a deer in the headlights. They're on unfamiliar ground. They can't articulate because it's not their language. I wanted to acquire that language so I could engage and empower myself. And the major benefit was, yes, being able to articulate my own needs and understand my drives, but more importantly, I now understood the language of men. And for the first time I could communicate with men by understanding their process. And this opened up a whole new world for me. Also, a lot of pained regret for what I could have had as a boy growing up, what was lost. Men need to take action. They need to take action over their own health. Not in terms of living up to vain societal expectations, but by arming themselves with knowledge. Medical professionals, they don't want to deal with male issues. They want to give you a little pill and send you on your way. And no doctor will help a man unless that man empowers himself by challenging them. And I've had countless debates with doctors over the years. I had to rehab my body a number of years ago after being in a coma, and I'd lost a great deal of muscle and body weight, and I was constantly fatigued. And the best my GP could provide me with was multivitamins. So I did copious amounts of research, and finally I had a doctor prescribe me testosterone. And I took it under his supervision, as it should be, and it worked. I increased my body mass. My strength and appetite increased, as did my sex drive, and my energy levels. It was a wonder drug for me. I did several cycles, and it did the job. I was very happy with the results. I haven't had the need to use it since, but I am glad that I did. And it's an area that needs far more study, along with nutrition. But men need to question everything, and never settle for less. We place so much blame on men for not being able to express their emotions. Yet we do nothing to adapt our language with men. Active engagement, active language. A man doesn't want to hear soft language, that he's needing help or he's needing support. We need to use charged active words. That man is taking his power back. He's forging his own path. That's a man in charge of his own destiny. A man needs to feel in control of the process, that the steps to his improved health, that they're very clear, that they're identifiable, that they know that they're doing and what they're doing, where the information is, and that information is readily available. Men are explorers. They want to discover, they want to research information. They want to gather that information and decipher it before imparting it. And the internet, it's been a godsend in this regard. And it's vitally important that men continue to use the internet as a means of communication. Because most men, without a female in their life, they're lost, they're miserable. And if that man somehow finds his way to therapy, his experience then will only solidify his perception that he's dysfunctional, and that without female approval and social validation, he's going to fall apart at the seams. In therapy, it can also enforce many of the harmful perceptions he's held about his own masculinity for years. And for me, and perhaps also for you, when you look at most men, you can see the man they could have been, had that man been allowed to find his own way, not had it drilled into him that he was less than. You see a man who could have found his place in the world, rather than as a casualty. Now, until men find a way to accept the parts of themselves that they've been taught to shun and resent, men will continue to be casualties.